The naming test will work properly only if the child's brain has matured the frontal system or the frontal lobes. Now,
What happened?
यहाँ तक everyone remembers the key players. Who are the key players? सबसे पहले we start with left
बहुत हो
hemisphere.
गया आपका नाटक अभी.
Then we
Come on, do
talk
your
of
work.
temporal
And you
lobe,
also.
frontal lobe, parietal lobe. Then we spoke of gray matter. Then we spoke
This
of
is
corpus
your book.
callosum. यहाँ तक सबको याद है? One more point that we spoke of was how neural circuitry or more sophisticated synapses या synaptogenesis and myelination of axons. These 8 things are the key players when we talk of the neuropsych perspective to language development through the lifespan. ये clear है सबको guys? Any questions so far? Proceeding ahead, I also want you to understand that development of language, okay, in the brain is more qualitative in nature than quantitative. And because of its qualitative nature, it enhances neuroplasticity. And if you remember a short while ago, we had also discussed how having access to multiple languages or how being a bilingual or being a multilingual has its cognitive benefits because it enhances neuroplasticity. यहाँ तक सबको sorted है? Am I going fast or is everyone able to process and is everyone with me? Yes, Somi.
So when we say that we cannot learn language after a certain age, so are we saying that synaptogenesis is not happening as efficiently?
See, now you remember we spoke of something called as the growth spurt. So when the growth spurt happens, that is when बहुत सारे synapses हो जाते हैं. And that is the ideal age for us to learn. Okay? And it's not like in adolescence or in adulthood we can't learn a language. People who have crossed 60 years of age can also learn a language. It's not like they cannot. The only difference is they will take more time to learn it because the rate at which synapses are formed is slower as and how we age compared to when we were younger. उतना ही difference है. ऐसा नहीं है कि नहीं सीख सकते, but एज थोड़ा गड़बड़ हो जाता है. Yes, Sakshi, you have a question?
Yes, ma'am.
एकता चुपचाप बैठो. अरे तो खा लो उसको. अंदर करो उसको.
So let's say for example, we speak English today, right? One second. No, we speak English today. Lame example है, but I am sure this example will help you understand what I mean when I say qualitative. Did we speak English when we were in 5th standard? So तुम 5th standard में भी English बात कर रहे थे, तुम masters में भी English बात कर रहे हो. But the kind of English that you spoke when you were in the 5th standard or when you were in the 10th and now that you are in your masters, is it the same or is it different?
It's different.
Language is the same, but the enhancement that has happened cannot be compared. That is what we mean by language development is more qualitative. Like तुम number में count नहीं कर सकती. You cannot numerically count कि मेरा ना language इतना है, मेरा language उतना है. That is what we mean by a qualitative change.
Got it. Thank you.
Oh, welcome. Now, proceeding a little ahead, I am sure we've all heard of tip of the tongue phenomenon. What is tip of the tongue phenomenon? When we know the word, but for some reason we are not able to recollect the word. वो ज़बान पे रहेगा but निकलेगा नहीं. That is literally tip of the tongue phenomenon. Many a times when you just meet a person Like तुम्हें पता है तुम उसको मिले हो, तुम्हें पता है कि तुम्हें उसका नाम पता है, but वो नाम याद नहीं आ रहा है. You will remember random things like अरे her name starts with a T या her name starts with a D or something like that, but वो नाम याद नहीं आता at that point in time. This is what we call as tip of the tongue phenomenon. And if you look at the evolution of language in adults or elderly, it has been found that as and how people age, the access that they have to let's say different information, bits of information pertaining to language reduces a little, and it creates something called as a naming deficit, which is termed as anomia. Now I repeat again, aging affects our verbal skills, and a lot of us suffer from something called as the tip of the tongue phenomenon. See, tip of the tongue phenomenon हम सबको होता है. ऐसा नहीं है कि तुमको कोई वर्ड कभी याद नहीं आया तो तुम एज हो गए हो या तुम्हारा ब्रेन एज हो गया है. Please do not over generalize things like that. Okay? There are times when even we cannot remember. अरे वो रे वो पास कर. We say stuff like that. No, yeah, give me that. That ऐसे करके हम नहीं बोलते. वो that का word तुमको याद नहीं आ रहा है, but you're pointing at it. Doesn't mean that there is a deficit in your brain. It's just that probably you are too tired right now, or that memory is just not accessible to you. If this is happening very frequently, then you need to get it assessed probably. But अगर वो ऐसे once in a while हो रहा है, then you can give a benefit of doubt, not a problem. Now, proceeding ahead, mostly this thing that we call as naming difficulties. Okay, the fancy term for naming deficit is anomia, anomia. Now it begins to appear in people who are as young as in their 50s. Now so far, like since the time we have started studying about language, since the time we were in junior college and studying chapters in language, about language, we have looked at the role of we have looked at the role of left hemisphere in language comprehension and production. But let me tell you a very interesting fact about language in the elderly population. So ऐसा ही one such interesting study found that as people age, there is greater activation of the right hemisphere during language comprehension and language production. And obviously with this they have found something very new, because अब तक everyone was always talking about left hemisphere. Language बोला तो left hemisphere, that was like a given. But for the first time somebody had found in early adults, right hemisphere also shows greater activation. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Any guesses? Come on, try to karo. I know you are exhausted. I know you have had a long day. I know you have come from an internship. But at least try. Why do you think? Yes, Sonal? More than non-verbal communication, I would like to add on to this and say that we all know with time cognitive abilities decline. ये established fact है. Everybody knows that with time cognitive abilities decline, and everybody knows the idea of neuroplasticity. What is neuroplasticity? Like आजू-बाजू का brain areas are trying to compensate for a lost function. So in the broad perspective, do you see why older adults have greater activation in the right hemisphere also when it comes to language? Because somewhere down the line their brain is trying to compensate for the lost cognitive functions, or let's say they're trying to compensate for those cognitive functions which have weakened, if not entirely lost. Now, this makes sense to you? This is what we call as a compensatory strategy. This is what we call as compensatory strategy. And this phenomenon where the hemispheric asymmetry reduces. I repeat again, this phenomenon where the hemispheric asymmetry reduces. What do I mean when I say hemispheric asymmetry is reducing? Initially, it is always the left hemisphere being more predominantly all over
Yes.
the place when we talk of language,
हाँ.
and right hemisphere अपना बेचारा कोपचे में
Written,
बैठा है
written,
वाला,
mostly written.
say very thund, no उछलना कूदना when it came to language, metaphorically speaking.
एकता उसको
But
आंसर मत बताओ.
as you grow old, the asymmetry between one person being more
Mat
proudly, more prominently active, and another part being less active, this asymmetry goes away, or this asymmetry reduces. This is what we call as the Herold model. HAROLD, all letters capital. The full form for the Herold model is hemispheric asymmetry reduction in older adults. ये क्लियर है सबको? Now, as in how we study more about language and how people suffering from, let's say, cognitive decline because of any neurodevelopment, any neurodegenerative conditions, be it Alzheimer's, be it dementia, be it any kind of cognitive impairment wala scene, they tend to lose out a lot of cognitive abilities, language being one of them, abstract reasoning being one of them, so on and so forth. But it is not always the case कि सबका cognitive decline इतना rapid रहेगा. Some people have a rapid decline in cognition, and some people, like especially those suffering from types of dementia, have a rapid decline in cognition, while others maintain a very high cognitive test performance, and this high maintenance of cognitive test performance is what we call as successful aging. And trust me guys, I not kid you, you are at an age where you can legit safeguard yourself from being more vulnerable to cognitive decline in your old age if you start right now. I do not know how many of you remember this, but I have always told you one thing, your brain is legit an organ, a muscle. And what do we know about muscles for a fact? That if you don't use that muscle, you will lose that muscle. So what can you do to ensure that your muscle always stays strong? Actively use it. And binge watching Netflix, Amazon Prime is not using. That is when your brain is passively involved. You've got to do something which keeps your brain actively involved. Be it learning a musical instrument, be it learning a language, be it solving puzzles, playing Sudoku, hell, even trying to brush your teeth with your left hand. Karke dekho kabhi. इतना difficult है. Like even if you've spent 10 minutes brushing your teeth with your left hand, you will not feel only like you've brushed your teeth because you're so used to the right hand brushing our teeth. I'm not saying रोज उठ के left hand से brush करो, but I'm saying that is one thing that you can do to rewire your brain. One thing that you can do to ensure both sides of the hemispheres are being used. That is how you create more synapses, learn something new, try out something new every day. Now, without digressing further, coming back to the main point, there are a lot of other things also that influence, stuff like gender, stuff like socio-economic status, education, access to education. Then we've also discussed bilingualism. Now all of these things are very much actively playing a role in language development and acquisition. This is pretty much what we have in the neuroscience lifespan development perspective on language. there is
Yesterday what
one
homework
more
had given you?
document, one more set of topic that I wanted to do with you all, which is purely on the neuropsychological basis of language,
Test.
where we will dwell more into the auditory nerves,
Question
the
answer
inner
का test. Objective
workings,
का
the
होता है
primary
ऐसा.
auditory cortex, so on and so forth. But I won't be doing that today.
आप कल क्वेश्चन
We
लिख
also
लेते
have disorders of language.
Question.
I will be doing that with you in our next
क्वेश्चन
class.
लिख के लेते ना.
But before we stop here for the day, just bear with me for a few minutes. The two documents that I have discussed stuff from with you today, I will share with you. Please take a few minutes, go
हो
through
गया
it.
आपका?
All the things that I have
गया?
discussed, all
Stand
the
up and
things that
study.
are important have been highlighted. I understand
वो नहीं
21
पढ़ना आपको,
pages का
मराठी है वो.
document है. After a long day, nobody is going to have enough cognitive resources
What, you're
left
giving
to
more?
read. But at least जो भी highlighted है एक बार glance through कर
Have you
दो
written the questions?
and let me know if all's well.
Can you
Other
write the
lot
question?
of extra information is there
क्योंकि
जो हमने discuss नहीं किया है वो तुम बिंदास ignore कर सकते हो.
नहीं
ठीक है?
आता है.
मतलब मेरे को समझता नहीं.
Just give me a minute to share the documents.
What is the product of a lamp? What is the product of a band?
बैन क्या होता
Land लिखा होगा.
Now, people, while I am doing that, a quick question. Does anyone have any questions about what we have done
क्या है सेंट
so far?
Product मतलब मल्टीप्लाई होता है और sum
सबको
मतलब
समझा है what we discussed?
समझा. Product मतलब
पक्का?
मल्टीप्लाई और sum मतलब
मैं
प्लस. Sum मतलब प्लस. What is the sum of 2 and 2? 4. मतलब एडिशन. एडिशन का मतलब सम होता है. इनटू आणि प्रोडक्ट ये दोनों मल्टीप्लाई होते हैं. इनटू आणि प्रोडक्ट. समझा. 20 मीटर सेंटीमीटर में कन्वर्ट किया तो कितना होगा?
नंबर तो बोलो.
20 मीटर्स.
20 मीटर. क्वेश्चन नहीं गलत है. कैसे पता अगर यहाँ पर अगर मीटर आएगा तो डैश बता के जो
Guys, I have posted both the topics. I mean both the documents. Please go through them.
आपको आइडिया भी है क्या कैसे कन्वर्ट करना है?
आप बोल रहे हो मेरे को समझ में नहीं आ रहा.
20 मीटर्स.
अब मेरे को क्वेश्चन लिख के दो.
20 लिखो और एम लिखो बाजू. हाँ.
20 मीटर
सेंटीमीटर में कन्वर्ट करना है.
सेंटीमीटर तो
आंसर बताओ. 20 मीटर. आंसर 2 है. सेंटीमीटर बड़ा होता है कि मीटर? या तो आप सम करो जाके बेसिक्स रिवाइज करो. कुछ भी नहीं आता है. कुछ भी नहीं करता आता. मल्टीप्लाई बाय 100.
Guys, are we going through the document?
सम करना रहता है. आपको क्या लगा कि ओरल देना रहता है? आप इतने स्मार्ट हो कि आप फटाफट मल्टीप्लाई करोगे 100 से बता दोगे. ऑफकोर्स
मुझे
टीचर
लगा ऐसे बोला आपने.
हाँ तो वैसे ही बोलना था. लेकिन आपके मन में आ जाएगा क्या 4 लीटर्स का मिलीमीटर में 4000 होगा? आप कर सकते हो लेकिन 1000 से मल्टीप्लाई करेगा तो 4 को तो 4000 आएगा. लेकिन आप करोगे क्या? हाँ
20 मीटर क्वेश्चन.
मल्टीप्लाई बाय 100 करोगे तो कितना होगा?
200. सही है.
20 होगा मतलब 2000 होगा.
अरे यार मेरे को वही पता चला कि मेरे को गलत लगा. इतना ज़्यादा टीचर कॉपी करके लिखना है.
7 मीटर्स.
कॉपी करके लिखना है.
7 मीटर्स सेंटीमीटर में कितना होगा?
10 मीटर 700. कॉपी करके लिखना. हाँ मैं 700. अब मेरे को
मेरे को
10 मीटर्स उसमें एक्स्ट्रा ज़ीरो रहता है ना, इसी के लिए आप लोग कंफ्यूज होते हैं। बोलो
10 मीटर इंटू 10,000 नहीं 10 वो 10 0 कोमा
कितने ज़ीरो रहेंगे?
3
तो
Are we done
Comma
glancing
तो
through?
3 ज़ीरो अगर होता तो क्या होता?
10,000
समझा? ऐसे दिमाग में।
Sorted है?
देखो अभी अगर आपको मीटर से सेंटीमीटर
I will
बोला
request
तो
you to
100
please
से
go
किया,
through this.
ठीक है?
So
अगर
next class में when we
सेंटीमीटर
meet,
दिया
first
है
few
और
minutes I will take to
मीटर में
revise
करना है,
all
तो
of this
multiply by
again, and then we will build on
ज़ीरो।
the other core neuropsychological basis of language. ठीक है?
10
Now that will be all for today, guys.
तो
Take
किससे
care
करोगे मल्टीप्लाई?
and
जब अपन
see you soon.
7
I hope the next time we meet is an offline class and you are in better energies and more receptive than we were today.
क्योंकि आपने 10 से मल्टीप्लाई करना है वहाँ पे। जब भी आपको
You're
आपने
welcome,
सेंटीमीटर पूछा है और आपको मिलीमीटर नहीं सेंटीमीटर दिया है, ठीक है? 7 सेंटीमीटर
Welcome.
दिया है।
Thank you, ma'am.
सेंटीमीटर
Welcome. Welcome. Bye, guys. Welcome. Bye bye.
टीचर टीचर निकेत
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. Bye bye.
टीचर
बोलो
निकेत दादा बुला रहे हैं।